2025 is now upon us, marking the halfway point of the 2020s, and somehow we're still playing our games on a 720p Nvidia Shield tablet from the early 2010s. If that isn't a testament to just how special the Nintendo Switch is, then I am a walrus. And I'm clearly a cat. This year is the final year of the Nintendo Switch as Nintendo's primary console. 8 years it stayed in the market. This little guy rocks. And that's what we're taking a look at today. What got us here to begin with? The story and legacy of the Nintendo Switch system. Well, it all begins in 1889. The Eiffel Tower was just being built, and Nintendo was just established as a Hanafuda playing card company. Then some minor stuff happened that isn't really relevant, and that brings us to 2016. After years of the Wii U generation, faith in Nintendo is at an all-time low, both from critics and the fans. Common consensus at the time was, Nintendo's headed the way of Sega. They should just quit the console business altogether and publish their silly little kids games on PlayStation and Xbox instead. But little murmurs start being heard. Around the dark alleyways of the internet, images start to circulate. The Nintendo NX. A revolutionary new oh god. I think we're done for. But some held out hope. They knew Nintendo was cooking. After all, there is one thing in this world to be excited about. The centerpiece of Nintendo's strategy had already been revealed. The jewel atop the Nintendo NX's crown. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And at E3 2016, fans and critics alike would be given a glimpse of what the future would hold. Newly energized, we shout in unison, Nintendo, please just show us the new console. I don't want to have to play this on a Wii U. Oh god, please. Now, I'm building up quite the expectation with this narration, but the build up to the Nintendo Switch's release is just one of those moments that will go down in history as you just had to be there, man. I've never witnessed a community go from it's so over to we're so back this quick. People were ready to throw in the towel. This thing didn't break 20 million units and the 3DS was on a downwards trend from the DS. It had never been this over. Now every segment of Nintendo's console business was in a downwards trend. So imagine the all-encompassing, absolutely overpowering hype that January 13th, 2017 brought with itself, as that was the day that Nintendo held the Nintendo Switch Presentation 2017. They spent all the creativity on the games and had none left for the naming as per usual. And it wasn't just a digital presentation either. They went up on stage for this thing, as if this is like some sort of pre-pandemic era 2017 E3 is still around type thing. My god, times have changed. They got my boy Todd Howard on stage, they got the president on stage, they got ARMS now, they got sequel to Splatoon, they got a Xenoblade Chronicles 2, they reveal Mario Fluff and Odyssey, and they finish off with peak fiction and the best trailer ever witnessed by man's sinful, ungrateful eyes. Breath of the Wild looks fantastic. March 3rd. Goodbye. And after all that, the console launch did not go smoothly. Looking back at it now, it's so easy to forget. After all, Switch is a massive hit, everyone loves this little thing, but as hyped as all of us were for Nintendo Switch, even the 2017 presentation couldn't fully convince the critics on the value of this thing. IGN gave it a 7. Now, IGN is not the be-all end-all of gaming opinions, far from that, but they're the largest publication, and they handed out a, it's alright, to the Nintendo Switch. Most people did not jump on board immediately, so these first few months of the Switch were crucial for Nintendo's success. So it's a good thing that they had one game. They had one game! But it wasn't just a game. It was arguably one of the most revolutionary games ever made. You can pretty much define the entire open world genre in pre and post Breath of the Wild, with Ubisoft slop as a little third branch no one wants to acknowledge exists. Just don't look and it'll go away on its own. I don't want another Assassin's Creed. No, I don't want another Far Cry either. No, that's just Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Star Wars. It's all in one. No, please don't. Truth is, even though Breath of the Wild is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, it alone couldn't carry the Switch to success. It was the full composition of 2017's lineup that really solidified the Switch as a console worth giving a damn about. That and the small little fact that it could, switch. Nintendo joined their handheld and console businesses for this thing. It was their last resort, the last trick up their sleeve, and it just happened to pay off big time. I don't need to explain the Switch's gimmick to you or anybody. It's simple, it's intuitive, it's not a Wii U. You pick it up and you play Breath of the Wild in the wild, your backyard. You put it back in the dock and you play it with the worst posture known to man. A selling point, by the way. This was a time before the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally, so your best bet at new handheld gaming was playing Mario Party the Top 100 on a 240p screen. So torture, if you're into that. After the Switch, you're playing Breath of the Wild on the go. You're playing these massive AAA offerings on the go. It was crazy and Nintendo was there to deliver. 2017's lineup consisted of the best Zelda game ever made, don't at me Ocarina lovers, one of the best Mario games ever made, Splatoon's breakout success after being restricted to Wii U's user base, more than 4 people got to play Mario Kart 8 as well for the first time, the best Mario Kart 8 ever, the best Mario Kart 8 ever. Not anymore, but at the time, it sure was. A massive RPG adventure in the form of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and ARMS! And one to Switch! If I were to go in depth into all of these releases, this video would be out by Switch 2's release date. That's just how good 2017 was. So as we're moving into 2018 and beyond, let's just focus on the overall picture of the system, where it was, and the general feelings of the community at any given time. We had a much quieter year overall in 2018, but the hype for the Nintendo Switch was starting to grow exponentially at this point. We were past that initial doubt and most technical troubles. The console had a solid library of indie games and first-party releases by this point, and 2018 did bring some extra first-party content for the Switch. We had Mario Tennis Aces, Super Mario Party, Kirby Star Allies, Hyrule Warrior Definitive Edition, and it would have been an alright if forgettable year composed of smaller scale games and re-releases, if not for one fact. The entire community was on edge all year round for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This major game was revealed surprisingly early in the year, in March of 2018 with a teaser trailer. Everyone was going crazy over this for the entire rest of the year. It felt like nowhere in Nintendo YouTube was safe from the speculation surrounding Smash for Nintendo Switch. Some people thought it was just a Smash 4 port, everyone was freaking out over Breath of the Wild Link for some reason. Nintendo spent over half of their E3 showing just on Smash Bros. Ultimate alone. That's 20 minutes on one game. And people complain when YouTubers spend 20 seconds telling you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please, look at this graph. Oh no, that's such a scary graph. Sorry. On one hand, they did not have much to show this year. But on the other hand, Sakurai is insane and Smash Bros. Ultimate is peak fiction, so I'll let it slide. I personally have very fond memories of this time. Even while not being a huge fan of Smash Bros, I didn't even play the game too much after it was released. Being a part of the Nintendo community at the time and reacting to every new character reveal along with a huge mass of people freaking out over the smallest details of a game, it was just good vibes. And I would say it was around this time where it fully set in that the Nintendo Switch was a success. Entering 2019, we had the release of the Nintendo Switch Lite and a ton more games that just kept on coming one after the other. If there was any doubt that Nintendo might have screwed up with this console, it was gone by this point. But no one was prepared for what would happen next. A global event that would define our generation. Change the way we do things from going to the supermarket to purchasing video games. 2020 was weird. It was hard. It was very hard. I, along with many others, was plunged into a very bad depressive episode during this period. I can easily define my personality and even my whole sense of self and pre- and post-pandemic me. However, there was one thing that remained a constant amidst the chaos. While the world outside seemed ever bleaker, inside our homes, be it in our bedrooms or living rooms, there it was, the Nintendo Switch. 2020 was pivotal to the Nintendo Switch's legacy. The events of this year would elevate the console from a standard success to straight up insanity. Animal Crossing New Horizons released at the perfect time to act as a stand-in for people's social lives, a place of retreat from the harsh reality of the outside. And it led a monumental movement that broke out of the Nintendo community and into the mainstream. I remember this period vividly. It was a weekend in mid-March 2020. I was at my home with some friends over, working on a school assignment. We were laughing and having a fun time. We said our goodbyes, and when I woke up the very next day, it was announced that we were getting a week off of school. We, obviously, rejoiced in happiness, but little did we know that that week would become almost 2 years of online classes. And the Nintendo Switch, with its community-driven games like Animal Crossing New Horizons, Splatoon 2, and in my case especially, Mario Maker 2, was there through it all. And I know I'm not alone. The numbers really do show. Now, we enter what I call more of the modern era of the Nintendo Switch, the second half of its life cycle, with the release of a more up-to-date version of it in the form of the Switch OLED, that despite not having major performance improvements, rest in peace Switch Pro, yeah, those were fun leaks to speculate on back then, it still brought to the table a massive screen improvement, a kickstand that actually stands, and a little more internal storage so you can fit one badly optimized sports game instead of 0.5 badly optimized sports games. And while all this was going on, the Nintendo Switch was building an unrivaled library of games. It's the best library of any Nintendo console by far, with tons of enhanced Wii U ports combined with dormant series that were brought back to life with a fresh new coat of paint. At this point, buying a Nintendo Switch became a no-brainer if you had any interest in handheld play. Sure, it was not without controversy. 2022 brought with itself 2 Pokemon games, both of which could have used some more time in the oven, and one that should have definitely not been released at all in the state that it was. But it also continued to prove that despite its aging hardware, Switch could innovate in series that were considered to be stagnant. We had the first 3D Kirby adventure, Bayonetta 3, DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and a brand new Splatoon outing. It seemed like there was no way they could keep this momentum up anymore. It had to slow down, but then we reached 2023. The Mario movie made $1 billion, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom sold 4 quadrillion units in 2 seconds, and for the first time in ages, we got a new 2D Mario game that isn't actually new! Pikmin 4 also happened, that was insane. I don't need to remind you just how good 2023 was. It was just 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago. Mario RPG Remake. Finally, we come to the last year, 2024. This was like if 2018 didn't have Smash Bros at the end. The Switch did start winding down. We began to see performance issues on multiple Nintendo first-party games. Like, half the games they released this year were struggling with their frame rates. But it was mostly a year defined by speculation of Nintendo's next console. And while I'm kicking my feet up in my bed thinking of the next 3D Mario game on Switch 2 like any self-respecting human should be, we should just give this guy its last year in the spotlight. Focus on what we could play and what was in our hands and just how much the Nintendo Switch was able to provide for all of us. Yes, there were some questionable pricing choices and some even more questionable attitudes by the big N up top, and yet, 8 years later, here I stand, holding this little guy. My only Switch that I bought at launch. It stayed with me through it all. And as I stand here holding it, I'm overcome by a feeling of thankfulness for all the fun times, all the new memories, all the amazing games, and the communities we've built. It really did mean something. And it's a feeling that I don't know if any other console generation will be able to replicate, past or future. So, before we give in into the new, exciting future that lies just ahead, for one final time, let's sit here and appreciate the present in what brought us here to begin with. For one final time, thank you, Nintendo Switch.
Nintendo Switch.